Our plan today is to change that. We're saying, you know what, enough. Liberal and conservative governments have given these big 5 telecom companies a free ride. Let them charge extremely high costs. Let them charge extremely high costs on people. And we're saying enough's enough, let's stop it. So our plan is basically going to save families money. We're going to cap the price of all cell phone plans to OECD average rates. So we know across the world there are lower fees being charged. We're going to cap the rates at that more affordable. And that means a savings of as much as $10 per plan, per family, per person. We've seen other jurisdictions do this before, and we know it works. We're also going to make sure we put in measures to make competition more competitive market, so that people can actually see lower costs that'll be more than just the $10 per month. On top of that, one of the things that we're seeing is that data bandwidth is capped. We're going to end that. If you need to access data, we need to have broadband that it's unlimited for affordable rates. On top of that, one of the most frustrating things is you go over your cell phone plan by a little bit and you get a message saying that it'll cost $20 or $30 for just 1 extra gig of data, and people need it, so they're getting gouged on that price. We're going to end that. We need to have affordable, we're going to mandate through CRTC affordable unlimited plans. Every company has to provide an affordable unlimited plan so that people can roll over to this affordable unlimited plan instead of getting gouged on a couple extra gigs. We need a Bill of Rights for consumers, for people, for Canadians, to make sure that they know what their rights are when it comes to telecom, their cell phone bills, and they can have those rights protected. And finally, there is a spectrum auction, basically an auction where basically companies, the big 5 telecom, buy the ability to give us cell phone service. From 2001 to 2018, from 2001 to 2018, the big 5 telecom companies have bid on that spectrum, and it's resulted in almost $20 billion of revenue for Canada, and we've not seen where that money has gone. We've not seen it go to better infrastructure, lowering the cost of those cell phone plans. So we're going to change that, and we're going to announce that down the road.
You're not concerned about the government meddling in capitalism? Shouldn't the market be able to decide?
The market's resulted in the highest costs in the world. The market has resulted in paying the highest per gigabyte in the world. The market has not worked. In fact, the market's been exploited by the 5 largest telecom companies. And so we know it hasn't worked. And in fact, other countries have actually done similar things. The United States has put in place price caps that resulted in lower costs. They've done it. They've done it in Australia. Price caps brought down the cost. They put in place mechanisms to reduce the cost and to increase competition, and now they've actually seen the prices go down so far that they've removed the price caps. What we need to do is make decisions that protect people. Right now, the decisions have been made to protect these powerful corporations that allow them to exploit Canadians. We pay the highest in our cellular services fees. We've got young people talking about how expensive it is, and the status quo cannot continue. That's why we're taking on the telecom companies to say, listen, enough's enough. You're making way too much money on the backs of Canadians. We need to make these rates more affordable, and that's why we're putting forward these initiatives.
I can add to that. It's an important point with regards to the free market and that, but here's the reality is that right now Canada is lagging in innovation. One of the reasons is because of our current infrastructure that we have and the future. Canadians actually download less when you compare to many other OECD and other types of nations. Most importantly, this also affects our businesses and our industry and our investment. So right now, if we continue the status quo and Canadians actually start to download even more, the price shock is going to be even higher. And on top of that, it's going to drive investment outside of this country. So there needs to be a level playing field here. There needs to be consistency, and we need to have some stability with regards to other types of businesses that rely upon the digital age to be innovative and also to be competitive in the world. So there's a bigger problem for investment in Canada. There's a bigger problem for innovation if we allow the status quo to exist. And then lastly, the previous governments have accumulated around $20 billion of net surplus with regards to the spectrum auction. It's resulted in the highest costs. And so the governments have got a windfall amount of access of capital that's been unfettered in terms of use of rolling out a strategy. They chose not to do that, to pad their budgets with that for other pet projects and other types of things that they wanted. And then lastly, Canadians at the end of the day are paying the most, including Canadian businesses. That's not good for the future.
But I'm wondering, is a cap the way to go, or should there not be some strategy to encourage more competition to lower
Well, both.
price?
What we're proposing is 2 options. One is a cap. Caps have worked to bring down prices immediately. People need relief right now. Canadians need relief. These young people behind me want to see their bills go down. They need that to happen right away. So the cap has worked in other jurisdictions. In addition, the cap is not the only thing we're offering. The mechanism that we're proposing is, what's happened in the States is that the infrastructure that the big companies have built can be used by competitors. They can rent out those services to actually offer competitive pricing. In Canada, those regulations aren't as strong and don't allow for that to happen. So what we would do is bring in that similar system, which would allow for new companies, new entrants into the market to be able to use the existing infrastructure to compete and provide better pricing. And so with those two measures and a host of others, our hope is eventually bringing down the prices low enough that the price cap won't be needed, similar to what happened in Australia. After the price cap was imposed, the competition was increased, and now the price cap has been removed because prices are now well below the price cap. It's worked in the other jurisdictions. We want to make sure it happens here so people get affordable internet.
The Commissioner of Elections' investigation of you as a target of fake news in Burnaby South is now entering month 5. The votes are cast. The by-election is over. Do you have a concern about the length of the investigation?
Well, it's concerning in general, the fact that we've got fake news on the rise and people aren't sure where to turn to for information. And we know that misinformation is creating results which have impacted the outcomes of democratic elections in the States. And we know that there's been serious concerns around that. There was an attempt to interfere in a way with that by-election, but it speaks to the bigger problem of misinformation. Recently, we've learned that the company that was paid for that fake news, we're hoping to find out who actually paid them to get to the bottom of where this is coming from and how it's happening. But it is concerning that it's taking so long. Canadians want to know how this happens, how does misinformation take place, and who's paying for it, and who's the cause of it. This is something that's going to be even more crucially important when the election comes in October.